What up, Dokkaners? Welcome back to Tsunami for another video on Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. I am here with the homie Goresh to talk about the new categories that have released on Dokkan. We've got Connected Hopes, and we've got Mind and Body Erosion. Now, first glance, honestly, like, I don't even know what to say other than I see what they're trying to do, but it's unfortunate that they have to go to such great lengths to justify these categories now. It seems like they're getting more abstract, like with each iteration, right?
Yeah, I mean, so initially, before we even got these categories, Janemba really needed more because he was only on two. He was only on movie bosses and transformation boost, right?
Right.
So I think it's not the worst thing to obviously give him a new category, and that's actually what I wanted them to do. Usually I don't like new categories, but in this case I feel like it was definitely deserved. But the category is a little bit weak, and I think for that reason that's one of the factors behind them giving him the extreme class in his leader skill as well. Same thing with PyCon too. So I think even though these categories are not really that great, and I feel like they're kind of just more of those subjective style categories, the fact that they have the extreme and super class portions of their leader skills definitely makes up for these categories being lackluster.
Yeah, definitely. When I first saw this, I was thinking the same thing. Janemba barely has any categories. PyCon too. PyCon doesn't have the most amount of categories, and some of these other units that are in here, you can kind of see what they were trying to do, which is exactly why I don't want to just hate for the sake of hating. But then looking at the category itself and the whole definition of a category, I feel like out of the two, if we have to choose a side here, I feel like the Mind and Body Erosion one is a little bit more concrete than the Connected Hopes one. That seems a little more subjective. I think I don't even know what they're trying to go for here. Is it something like a joint effort to achieve a goal? Like, what exactly is their intent with this category? Do you have any idea on how to perceive this?
I think I have an idea, and then every time I think I have an idea of what it is, I find a unit that doesn't match it. So like you can sort of think of like, oh, there's like a bunch of different people coming together to achieve one goal, and then you have like Maj and Vegeta on there, which is like, why is he there? And then you have someone like Nail, like, why is he there?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like there's like a few oddities that don't match up to what I thought the category would be. So that's a little bit weird. A lot of fusions are on here though. Gotenks, Gogeta. I mean, Spear Bombs were really good. I mean, the category really isn't that bad technically. It's just like all over the place. Like you have Namekian Nail on here. There's one Piccolo on here. Why is I guess he's because he's the one.
It's because he's got Nail.
Yeah, and then PyCon, and then you have like Mai's on here, and like T. Like none of these characters are gonna link up super well with each other.
Yeah. And, you brought up that whole thing about PyCon and Janemba having those added leader skills where they cover more than just the very limited categories that they lead. Do you think that this is potentially the start of a new archetype for units where they're starting to just concede, like, you know what, we've got some obscure categories, they don't make a whole lot of sense, so let's give you an out by giving these guys more utility with a secondary leader skill that actually still helps the first one? Or do you feel like this was kind of a one-off just because PyCon and Janemba are just so obscure?
Yeah, I think it's more so that, well, until we start seeing this happen like as a trend, I can't really say that, but I think this is more so just PyCon and Janemba, they're experimenting with them as dual Dokkan Fest units, and the fact that they don't belong on that many categories, like they needed the extra versatility in like that, the extreme and super class leader skills. And by the way, these are the best leader skills for super and extreme class in the game. 130% is the highest we have.
Yeah.
Prior to this, the best ones were the Transforming Goku and Frieza one from the what was it, like 250 million downloads?
Yep.
So
right when I started too.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a decent leader skill. Obviously, it's actually a very good leader skill. And one of the good things about them is now that we have a better version of those leader skills, that these guys might start to show up on a lot of the banners that we've seen, because for the Transforming Goku and Frieza, I feel like a lot of the reason why they show up on those like dual Dokkan Fest every single time is because they're very beginner-friendly units where you pull them, and then you could instantly start building teams around their leader skill, right? 'Cause it's very expansive, and it just covers a wide amount of units that you're going to have as a beginner in this game. So with these units now being in the game, we might start seeing these guys be put on a lot of dual Dokkan Fest banners because of that portion of leader skill. And because of that, I feel like maybe it's not worth summoning on these banners right now, because if we think they're going to return a lot, then you just summon them when they come back, or you just buy them with coins, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the transforming Goku and Frieza. I think to an extent the next pair before these guys would have been the Trunks and the Zamasu.
Yeah,
because they kind of adopted the same archetype where they would lead their own categories and then they have that subcategory that was pretty accessible to a lot of newer players, which is why we saw them quite often too. Not nearly to the extent as the Goku and Frieza, because obviously they're not as marketable, they're a little more niche. But yeah, I agree with you, and I hope that this is the turning point for seeing those guys coming back all the time, and maybe these guys can kind of take their spot. And it also kind of helps push the meta, because now that these units will be a little more accessible to the newer players, it will bring the entire more of the player base into the fold of the higher levels of leader skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the reason why we haven't seen the Zamasu and Trunks take the place of the Goku and Frieza is because their leader skills are literally just ridiculous. Like Realm of Gods and Extreme Class, like how dumb is that? Like Realm of Gods like the best team in the game, and then Trunks Future. I mean, Future has a lot of ridiculous units on it. Like you have like the LR Rose, you have all the Goku Black units, you have the Zamasu units, you have all the Trunkses, you have the Vegito Blues on there as well. So combine that with Super Class, like. Pretty much the whole game almost. So I feel like their leader skills are technically still better than this Janemba and Pycon, just because their categories that they're leading aren't that great.
Now, going back to these two categories, as we always do when we do these reaction sort of videos to the categories, are there any particular units, given what limited information we have on defining these categories, is there any particular unit that you're just like, where is this guy? Why is he not here? Or do you have one that's like, why is this unit even on the category? Anything?
I guess technically for the Mind and Body Erosion one, I guess they could have put Boo on here. At least the fat Boo, because even though he technically wasn't being like controlled from like a perspective of him not being able to physically control himself, he was sort of under the influence of Babidi for the whole time he was evil, right, as Fat Boo. And then Hercule comes and he's like, hey, did you know that killing people is bad? He's like, oh, no, I'll stop. Like, that's literally what happened. So I feel like they could have thrown at least the fat version of Majin Buu on here. And then also the new LR that came out, right? The one that's literally about to drop, the Prime Battle Babidi and Buu. They should be on this category too, I would argue. But I don't think they are, so it's a little bit weird.
It's funny you mentioned Buu, because literally one of my first initial reactions when hearing the name of the category, I thought that Fat Buu turning into Evil Buu would be a great option, because he kind of turned good, and then he was regressing, and he was physically and mentally just changing in a very literal sense. So I thought that there would be some Buu representation in here. And then as far as what was the other one that you mentioned? You said, who's the other guy that you just?
Oh, just the LR, the new LR.
The LR. So I'm not really seeing. I guess, I mean, this isn't black and white yet, but like I'm not really seeing the same sort of level of mind control or manipulation that you'd see on these other ones to maybe warrant that being in here. But now that I mentioned that, what exactly was the case with Cooler? Was Cooler just being corrupted by the Big Getty Star? Is that the reason why Meta
Yeah, I
Cooler's
think
in
that's
here?
why. Yeah.
Okay. And then all the Majins and all the baby units. Yeah, it's just such a focused category. I can't even think of what else would belong here. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we'll eventually get a Ginyu Dokkan Fest. I've been adamant about this for 5 years. Eventually it'll happen.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
So, if he ends up being like a body change active skill or something like that, then he will have this category too. And then, other than that, I mean, I don't really have anything else. Again, the category is pretty specific, so.
Yeah, they also have the heroes, well, not the heroes, the Xenoverse Timebreaker Saiyans too.
Yeah, that's good, because the mask is like controlling them, right?
And then as far as this joint aspirations, connected hopes thing, we literally don't even know what this is, so like we can't even say what should or should not be here. But I guess if anything, if there's some sort of like collaborative element in the category's definition, I would say there needs to be more fusions in here.
Well, I was thinking more joined forces units, like the why is physical Gogeta on here? The LR?
Yeah, it's right here. It's on the bottom left.
So why is he there? And then why is Int Vegito from the year 3 not here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Is it specifically with regard to like them working with PyCon? Is that why?
Possibly. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what it was, because all the Gotenks are working with Piccolo.
Mm-hmm.
The Trunks, the Super Trunks, is working with Vegeta. Maybe the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku's working with the family of Saiyans that surround him.
Right.
The
If Piccolo and Nail work together, but then if
Piccolo
that's
and
the
Nail
case,
work
why
together.
isn't physical Kami on here? Because doesn't he fuse with Piccolo, or is that not technically Kami?
I don't
from
think
the
that's the
Android side?
Kami from the point in time where he fuses, right?
Oh, okay, sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like we're kind of onto something here, but it's still such a gray area. So it's kind of hard to really definitively say right now who should or should not be here. But I guess what we're trying to say, as with every video that we do when it comes to these category videos, is just that the categories are getting more and more obscure because they're running out of ideas, because there's so many that we keep saying that they need to, reinforce some of the older ones, but they won't seem to do it. But at the very least, we could give our thoughts on these two categories and let you know what we think, so that you and I can have a discussion in the comments. So, Goresh, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. And that's going to be it, everybody. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and always remember to Dokkan responsibly.